Hey Paul, how you doing? So we are here tonight interviewing our one and only Mike Roche. Now, for all of you that have been following him in this community, interviewing our that's sad. Hold on.
Hello, Paul.
That was me again. I can't believe I do that every single time. But for those of you that follow Mike in the community, he is quite the artist when you look at his videos, and very intriguing in that way because I know that we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight. His growing up, where he's been in his life, but I watched his where were you? Oh, it wasn't Oakland. Did the one where you did the Ella Fitzgerald?
I did the what?
You did the song, no, I can't even think of it. I will look it up.
Christmas one or
No,
the Sopranos song?
those were all good, but the thinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Oh, right. Lake Ontario, because where I live is about 40-minute drive away from the southern edge of Lake Ontario. Oswego, New York, is where that harbor is.
So I went and I watched that. I don't think I've ever heard the music. That was so phenomenally done with the music, the water, phenomenally. I had tears in my eyes. I just thought, wow. I've never really heard that song or really thought about it in the way that it did. And I think that's all through your editing. So we're going to be talking about that and a lot of other things. So I want to present you with Mike Roche.
Hello, everybody. All two people in the chats right now. Of course, they don't have to be in the chats to be watching. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But
hey, Flying Trucker, they don't. They don't need to be in the chat to be watching, for sure. So,
but yeah, that song was the Edmund Fitzgerald. That was Gordon Lightfoot. It was Canadian, and in fact, I saw him in concert about 6 years ago here, and got to hear him do that song live. That was pretty cool.
So I want to really get in that, but that song was beautiful with how you did that whole footage and how you did the editing. So hey, Flying Trucker, we'll see you later. Thanks for coming in. So Mike, talk to me a little bit about where you were born and where you were brought up.
Yeah, I'm from Syracuse, New York, and born and raised here at Syracuse General Hospital, which no longer exists, in 1962. So I'm 57, and now I live in the suburbs of Syracuse, and if anyone doesn't know, when they hear New York, they think of New York City right off the bat, and that's way down in the corner of the state. It's obviously a whole nother world down there, but Syracuse is pretty much right in the middle of the state, so you can get to any part of the state just about equally from here. So we have the Adirondack Mountains to the north east, and the Niagara Falls to the west, and New York City to the southeast, then down to Pennsylvania. And so yeah, I grew up here, and I lived in the city of Syracuse till I was 16, and then my parents moved to the suburbs, and was growing up. We had 5 boys and a girl in our family.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, big family. There was one brother who passed away at about a week old, so there would have been there were 6 boys, really, and a girl, but he passed away, and my sister was the oldest, and I'm next to the youngest, so I came along late.
So when you were being brought up in Syracuse. Now, I think I know the city of Syracuse because I've watched all your videos pertaining to the city. And it looks fairly big. Is it quite a big, like, urban center there?
It is a pretty decent urban center. I guess you'd call it a mid-sized city. Obviously nothing near like Chicago or Detroit or
Right.
and then New York is a whole world unto itself. But it's like the fourth biggest city in the state, and unfortunately, it's seen its heyday back in the days of the Erie Canal and all that kind of thing when it actually came right through the center of downtown Syracuse way back when, and that's kind of what spawned the growth of the city. But it's fairly good size. We have a downtown, and then quite a suburban area of the greater Syracuse area is pretty good size. But I wouldn't know. Rochester, New York, is slightly bigger, and then Buffalo is bigger than that.
So, talk to me a little bit about what it was like growing up in your house.
In our house,
before you were a teenager. Teenagers always change everything.
Right. Well, in our house when I was before I was a teenager, if you've ever seen the movie A Christmas Story, Ralphie, I was kind of like Ralphie. I was just this goofy little kid who, Christmas was the greatest day in the world and all that. And growing up, I loved, John Wayne Westerns and all that stuff. I wasn't a big sports fan in terms of watching sports on TV as a kid. So my hero was my dad growing up, which was really, not everybody can say that. And so for me, it was my dad. And I thought he was like the great, he was a World War II guy. And I thought, he's this great war hero kind of thing. And to me, and and my mom and I, we butted heads a lot, even from a young age, in those days. But that's kind of how our house was. And when you have 5 boys, you have a lot of fisticuffs and that kind of thing.
So did you have a lot of that going on?
Oh yeah.
Were you a brawler? Is that what you call it? Brawler?
Yeah, we go to the fest. It took nothing for like a storm to brew up in our house, So, but it keeps your lungs strong.
Yeah, that's for sure. So your mom was in a house full of boys. How many girls?
1 girl.
1?
Yeah, and she was the oldest, so she got stuck with a lot of babysitting and things like that.
Oh, watching a bunch of boys.
Right.
That must have been fun.
Yeah. And she's 13 years older than I am. So she's 70. And and I have a brother 2 years younger. So we're pretty spread out. Typical baby boom family.
Right.
In that sense.
So you grew up, right? You become a teenager in the house. Now what's your house like? Because all of you were either teenagers by then or leaving home.
Right. There was only a few years where all of us were in the house. By the time I got to be, say, 10 years old, 12 years old, one of my brothers had gone to college, and another one went into the Marines in the mid 70s. And at that time I was only, say, 13, 14 years old. So it was only a few year period where it was all of us, and and of course we lived in a city house where everything's compacted and fairly close together, so we had to share rooms and all that stuff, and it was nice. There was a lot of fighting in our household, but a lot of love in our household. It's like nobody can pick on my little brother except me, that kind of thing.
Right. So your neighborhood, what was that like for you?
Well, it was kind of different. Excuse me a sec. It was not your average upbringing. I mean, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Where I lived in the city of Syracuse was on the south side, and it was a typical blue collar neighborhood, say around 1960. And when Interstate 81, I don't know, some people may know that, some people may not, but when it was put through town, it displaced a whole lot of people in what was traditionally African American, black neighborhood. And those people pretty much moved to the south side. And if you remember, the 70s were a time of the white flight kind of thing. And so by the time I was, say, 10, 12 years old, we lived in pretty much a full-fledged ghetto, you know what I mean? And it was predominantly a black neighborhood. And that was interesting as a white kid. I'm not saying bad. There were sometimes some rough parts with that, but it was different, and being essentially the minority in my neighborhood. And you had to, and it was a time also, if you remember too, the late 60s, early 70s, racial tensions were pretty high.
They were crazy then.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I don't want to mischaracterize that and say it was all just people against people. We intermingled together for the most part fine. Our neighbors, most of which were black people, they were just our neighbors, and the kids next door kind of thing.
Right.
And but there was some times when you just had to watch it a little bit more, but you do in any urban setting. And but it was I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it really, I think, just gave me some skills. You had to figure out what was safe and what wasn't pretty quick. And I'm not saying thankfully there weren't guns on every street corner back then. Back then you might get jumped or something like that. But now, unfortunately, with the drug dealing that goes on throughout the whole city and all that, my nephew is a homicide detective in Syracuse, and during the warm weather, there's shots fired every night in the city, and it's typical, Americana in today's modern times.
Right. I was bused into a school that was it was when they did all the busing to kind of bring all the cultures together. And I was bused into a black school, and the blacks were bused into my school, and they tried to make that all work. It gave you an education that you wouldn't have had any other way.
Right. Yeah. And some of it was rough, but some of it was beautiful.
Right.
I like to feel that some of the kind of black American culture rubbed off on me, and it's a good thing. And,
it is, because it kind of teaches you at a young age.
Yeah.
That we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to learn the lesson, you learn it, and if you don't, well, then you don't.
Right. Or teach you how to fight.
It was one of the first fights I ever was in that school.
Yeah.
And it was with what we called a greaser girl. She wasn't from the African American, she was from a different part of Maryland, and she slicked her hair back and the whole thing. It was really odd to me, but that was the first fight I got into was in that school. Taught me all kinds of lessons.
Wow.
Happy races in Hawaii. Too much different race. True. So one thing I really liked about some of your videos were your Christmas videos. When you go back in time, the one where you went back in time.
Right. Yeah.
Can you walk me a little bit through that and tell me? I know when I saw you, right, when you were little, because you had the most mischievous face of all the children in the video, but in the thing. But tell me a little bit about that and why that was important for you to make.
Well, Christmas, of course, Christmas memories are sentimental to most people. But thankfully, my uncle had a camera, and it's not like today. My dad didn't have a camera, and so when my aunt was still alive, I asked her for the photo albums so I could be the keeper of the pictures, and so she had all those black and white photos from way back when. I mean, there's one picture of me literally in a basket when I was a baby, and everything from 0 to up into our teen years, and to see my older siblings really young and my parents young, to see because they were in their 40s when I was born. So to me, they were always kind of old, from a 12-year-old's, a teenager's perspective.
Right.
And, so, and but to see them in their heyday, and it's like, my dad was a good-looking guy, and so was my mom, a good-looking lady, and so seeing that vitality in them, and all that, and seeing my older siblings, and just how much tinsel can you put on a Christmas tree?
Right.
If you remember the old style.
I thought it was great. And there's one picture towards the end where this kid is sitting there, little ears, and his eyes are wide. And I thought, oh my God, what a beautiful picture.
Yeah. And that's not, I think I know the one you mean. That's not an old picture. That was taken like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's my niece's son.
Tell her, he is so adorable.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Yeah, he has a lot of vitality to him, that kid.
I loved it.
Yeah. And of course, when he's disappointed that his Christmas toys doesn't work out of the box, he goes into meltdown mode. Yeah.
That little.
And we try not to laugh.
Kind of reminds me of Paul. Yeah. That's. Hi, Casper. I'm gonna say hi to a couple people in chat. Let's see.
Hello, Philly Drone. No, that's Canadian Drum Hub. I thought it was Philly Drone. Philly Mike.
Right. And I think he's going to be in here. We'll probably get Philly in here later for sure. Okay. I tried to get to that one with the I don't see it. Okay, I'm just going to get out. But hi, Casper. How you doing? For a ball, we have Ed. Ed is in the house. Tomas is in the house. I think I said that right. O'Sullivan. Irazy is in the house. We have Ed, of course, love my drums. Oh, Carpenter Rick is here. Night Train, choo choo, yeah. Let's see, we have Claude in the house. Hey, Claude. We have 616 Drones. Jim, how are you tonight, my darling? We have Shane Specialized Paranormal. Yeah, get that blood pressure down so you can get your teeth fixed. We had Flying Trucker, Paul Murray. Guys, you are great for coming in. Thank you. We are just celebrating Michael, pretty much. So talk to me about when you first learned to edit. Because all through it, you are really, hey, Mr. Crowley, you are really good at editing. Adam.
Well, sorry. I wasn't always, that's for sure. But for me, I've always been a camera person, and but I didn't take it seriously until I went to community college in 1991, just for the heck of it, and went into broadcasting. And so I learned right there, we had a TV studio and radio studios and all that, and learned a lot about how to lighting and shots and all that kind of thing. Some more technical aspects of things. And then when digital cameras came along, of course, I had to have a digital DSLR and interchangeable lenses and learn about exposure and white balance and all that stuff. Editing is just a matter, I think, of becoming comfortable with whatever software that you're going to use, and then for me, editing is like I try to get a picture in my head of, at least nowadays, because I think you remember when drones first came out, say 2015 or 16, when they became common. We all went and bought drones, and we flew around our yard, and it was amazing to see that we could just fly. And there's 10 minutes of flying around the yard, and that was interesting for about a minute of it. And so what I'm trying to do this year, especially, is to tell a story in the video as opposed to just showing things. So that is. And I've learned to try to gear it towards YouTube as well, because attention spans are not what they were many years ago. And so, if you watch movies or television shows, especially television shows, there is very rarely a long shot any more than 5 seconds in a show, and of any angle. And sometimes it's just 1-2 second shots. And so I've tried to edit in that way a bit. It all depends on what you're doing, though. Is that a fast-paced thing, slow-paced thing? And then is the shot beautiful enough to stay on it that long or whatever? So
you're going to go out, and you're going to when you go out, do you have a concept of what you want to do before you walk out the door?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, and you got to kind of look at what you got. And I kind of go through a process of whittling it down to, okay, how can I do something that makes sense out of this? And it might just have to be a 1 minute little thing instead of a epic video. But a long video is 3.5 minutes pretty much nowadays. Maybe 4, and unless I have something grand, it's not going to be 5 minutes anymore, because people won't click on it, for one thing, and just attention spans. But yeah, sometimes a concept. But like yesterday, I went out flying, and it was a gorgeous day here. It was sunny and about 72 degrees. And for here, that's really nice. I got a little sunburn, unfortunately, but I'm not complaining at all.
It's nice color.
Right.
I am looking for your videos right now. Hold on, because I have you in here.
Yeah.
So you have 253 subscribers.
Right.
Hey, Mason, St. Casper, everybody who's come in, Ed. But here's the deal, in Ari. I don't understand why that's all you have.
2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, I had about 37. So I guess
okay.
Roger's been a big help in that department.
Yeah, you've been on quite a while, but you are such a storyteller. I mean, such a storyteller. And I could see in the beginning you talked about quadriplegic bowling.
Right.
And you went through, but everywhere in here you have new electronics that you use. You have new electronics that you modify to make your world work better.
Right.
I mean, and you're in a lot of concerts.
A lot of concerts? Yeah. Oh, that's right. I think the one with Chicago. No, I put more stuff on Facebook of concert photos and things like that. But I love going to concerts, and been to many of them over the years. Of course, you remember when we couldn't bring cameras to concerts, and
Right.
now everybody has a camera on them no matter what.
Because they got phones, right?
Right, they on their phones, and but yeah, it's I started the whole YouTube thing strictly to put a few short clips of me bowling 8 years ago because I had a spinal cord injury when I was 16, and I am paralyzed from about the chest down and partially in my arms, and I enjoy bowling uh, and they make these special bowling balls with a retractable spring-loaded handle, and so you get a hold of it and throw it out down the lane, and by the time it hits the floor, the handle is back in. And I just wanted to share that with people, so I had to start a YouTube channel in order to do that. And then there's nothing on there, I think, until 2015, when we did a little road trip up into the Adirondacks with my family. And that's was done on a GoPro, and that's when I started thinking, okay, maybe I can make some more videos, and try and be a little artful with it because I was kind of trained in editing and all that, but until drones came along and flying, that to me, especially with me being in a chair, is so liberating and so and I always loved photography, but I can't always get to the shot, and so that enables me to get up to places that obviously in the middle of the air none of us can get to, but up to the side of a mountain or whatever it might be, or down into a valley, someplace you might have to hike to. I can get there with a drone.
That's right.
And so they're great tools. I mean, they're fun to fly and all that, because when I was a kid, I always wanted to fly something, whether it was a kite or a balsam little wood airplane we got for $0.25 as a kid. Remember those? We'd always smash them within the first day.
Oh yeah, because they were so thin. The wood.
Right.
That's the one, right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but the flying part is fun, and it still is. But now it's more about the videography and photography, still pictures as well, with the drone.
The funny thing is, oh hi Essex 2112. It's amazing because when I look at your videos, nowhere in it, unless you show a picture of yourself being in a chair, do I ever think of you in that way. That it just doesn't come to my mind.
Right.
Do you find that people are surprised when they meet you that you are a quadriplegic?
Yeah, online definitely. Yeah, because so far I haven't made anything of that other than the bowling ball thing, or if a video happens to show me while I'm in one of my videos, it's always been about the footage and whatever. I'm gonna probably bring that into it a little bit more, but I don't want that to be the focus of my YouTube channel. Not a disability channel, although it's certainly something not to hide either. And if there is something that I want to get out or talk about, I would definitely make a video like that. And and that was a big part of my teenage years too. Growing up was getting a spinal cord injury. 1978, I broke my neck in gym class, and that changes your life, forever. And it'll be 41 years in a couple of weeks, and so it definitely it's a huge change, and it's I don't want to sugarcoat it either, because I do well and I'm very comfortable and all that, and I'm not crying the blues at all. But I'd certainly rather not have to deal with it, And,
right.
And,
so this ended up happening. So you weren't born with a disability.
Right. I had an accident.
You had an accident, gym
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, and it was just a fluke, the kind of thing. Just at the last couple of minutes of gym, when we were kind of wandering out of the gym class, another guy and I, there was a wrestling mat there, and we were like, "Let's wrestle." And we weren't wrestling, like classical wrestling. It was just goofing off, and I got flipped over the wrong way or whatever happened, and I guess I kind of hit the mat the way you would if you dove into a swimming pool that wasn't deep enough and hit the bottom. And, so it came down on my head just in the exact wrong way. And my body went numb from neck to toe, like immediately, almost like in a quick straight line, like Novocaine, like nothing. And luckily, the kid, I said, "Get off me, I can't move." And luckily, he could tell I wasn't goofing off, because you can do further damage if you move somebody around. And and that was that. I broke the 5th and 6th vertebrae and had surgery that night and all that, and spent 2 months in the hospital, dealing with all the neck issues, the complications that come along with healing up the bones, and pneumonia and the blood clot in my leg that went into my lung, and all this stuff. And then when I was ready, 7 months of rehabilitation, which is a long time. They just took longer back then. Nowadays it would be maybe 3 months tops. But and then so I was basically in the hospital for 9 months during that time. So then I had to go home. I was like, oh boy, I got to go home.
Oh, who was, I just can't even imagine, your family, your mother, your dad, what they were going through, knowing that you had been so hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, they were pretty devastated. And I wasn't there to see that part because I was out of it at that time. But I was my dad's right-hand man kind of at that time. And my mom, what mother isn't devastated when that happened? And I also had an aunt and uncle who were like second parents, and they were just torn up about the whole thing. And and it was questionable whether you'd even live at first.
Oh, I bet. Like back then?
Especially in 1978.
Oh, geez.
Those were the dark ages in terms of that stuff. And but thankfully, I made through all that, and typically when someone gets paralyzed from a spinal cord injury, you lose more movement at first than you're ultimately going to have. You tend to get some back after swelling goes down in the spinal cord, things like that. So thankfully, I've got my shoulders back pretty well, and about half of the muscles in my arms are back pretty well. And for someone in my position, I have a good strong set of lungs just because I do.
From being raised with all those boys
all the yelling.
All the yelling in the
right.
And everything, right?
Yeah. So and so and that was hard at first because we weren't wealthy or anything at all. We were. My dad was by then he was a bartender working for someone else, and so he we didn't have a lot of money. We weren't able to make our bathroom wheelchair accessible and all that kind of thing. So for about 4 years, I had to deal with bed baths as opposed to taking a shower. But so let me tell you, when I take my shower every day, it's heaven, and I don't.
I was gonna say that first shower, not showering, but all that time.
It was actually kind of weird. It felt like, felt weird, but now it's like, the best part of the day, is the shower.
Right.
And,
right.
So.
Because you do a lot of things, you drive, yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I
I
think
saw your video, was it your 007 video?
yeah.
Oh, that was good. Oh, that was good, Mike. And so I know you drive, you do all the other stuff. So I just applaud you for just keeping yourself on track. Well, how hard that would be to do
Yeah.
that.
Well,
So
there have been, I had my bad times too, and all that. And and thankfully, from my injury, I was able to get some resources out of it from legal settlement kind of thing. And I have kind of more respect in some ways. Life is not fair. We all know that. And the people who have the same situation but don't have the ability to buy a vehicle that costs that kind of money, or
mhm,
to have their house built, custom built, or adapted or whatever, to live like that. Because I lived like that for 4 years, and I know what it's like. And it's indelibly in my head that, like, have an appreciation for, having a nice roof over your head that's functional and all that, where, when you're relying on others for transportation,
mhm,
we take that for granted, most of us.
mhm.
But when you lose that, boy, I'll tell you, you lose your freedom, but
You do. You actually,
yeah.
oh my God.
And and then after I graduated high school, I still didn't have enough. I could have gone to college. The state would have sent me to college, but they wanted me to do it on their terms, and I didn't want to do it on their terms. You know, uh,
What were their
it,
terms, Mike?
huh?
What were their terms?
Their terms were, I'd have to be carted around in a wheelchair van, and you typically get treated like cargo in a wheelchair van when you're like, the cab services. It's not Uber, and it's a very much a medical type of business model. And so that and the fields they wanted me to go into. So I kind of just took the chance, and I started volunteering at an organization called Arise Incorporated, which was just starting up in 1980, which was a disability rights organization, an advocacy and counseling organization for people with disabilities. And so right out of high school, green as a leaf, I went there and started fighting for accessible transportation. And then I got offered a job there, which floored me, because I'm like, who am I to be a peer counselor? And I ran support groups and things like that. And I took a lot of in-services and read a lot of books on how to do this stuff, but essentially winged it and used common sense. Don't make it about yourself. Just keep people talking. And some, I'm sure because you're in the people field of
Mhm,
dealing with reflection of content, reflection of affect, and all that kind of thing, to kind of help people, to keep them telling their story and what their pain is or whatever it is. And did that through basically the 1980s. And
wow.
but then I got so fed up with the social service, not-for-profit field, because there's a lot of turf wars and all that goes on with that kind of thing. And also the financial end of it. Um, I don't know, I always felt some encouragement to be a little exaggerated with your numbers and all that for
Mhm,
funding purposes and all that. And I really, I know people have to play the game, but I was not comfortable with that, and I wasn't comfortable with the direction the agency was going. So it became like, try to be everything to everybody as opposed to focusing on its original mission. So I
right.
kind of just got out of it, and then thankfully, another thing fell into my lap. Somebody from a startup called Think First, which is an injury prevention organization, started up, where it involved a lot of public speaking in high schools and middle schools all around the county where I live. And so basically through the whole 1990s, I spoke to high school health classes, a few middle schools and some grade schools, but when you get too young, they can't grasp the spinal cord injury stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we would talk about head injuries, spinal cord injuries, how they happen, and how they're permanent for the most part. But
Yeah.
how easily, so many of the time, they can be prevented. Just know how deep the water is before you dive in. Wear a seatbelt when you're going to get in the car, and drinking and driving, making good judgments and all that. Obviously, there's going to be the sports things here and there, but the majority are car crashes.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a lot of fun talking to the kids. But I was a lot younger then. We're talking the 90s, so I was still in my early 30s, I guess, and so it was. I could relate to the kids a little more. Where now I'm like, who's this old guy?
And you'd be surprised. They wrote John DiNardo, Furball above and beyond, running about Northwest. Hi, everyone who just came into the chat. So nice to see you.
Hello, everybody.
So, when you had your spinal cord injury, how old were you?
16.
16.
I turned 16 in February, and we moved out of our neighborhood in March to the suburbs, and I got hurt in May. So boom, boom, boom. And,
Oh my God.
And the school.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All these huge life changes. Just
yeah, but obviously the spinal cord injury kind of trumped everything else.
Oh yeah.
And and then when I got home, again, my mother and I butted heads a lot even then. So the motivation to go right back into high school was theirs. I was get me back into school ASAP, and I was being tutored in the hospital anyway as I was there. So I was able to graduate with my class, and that was cool. And so class of 1980, and that was good. The school was terrific about it, and it was an all boy academy that I went to. So it was kind of cool, good because there wasn't the complication of trying to date and all that kind of thing mixed in with that.
So what was that like for you, dating? Up through your teen years.
Yeah. Well, in my teen years.
And before we do that, I saw your Hawaii. You guys go look at his Hawaii things. There were girls, and they were not dressed very much. I'm just saying.
Well, that's not quite representative of my dating life in the 1980s. Though that was in 1989, actually, that one day on the beach, a friend of mine lived in Maui at the time, and he came over for Saturday afternoon, and he just has the gift of gab with other people. And somehow he got all these bikini-clad girls who didn't even speak English to come over and get your picture taken with Mike. and there I am, hamming it up and loving it. And
of course.
Right. But thankfully, in my when I got out of the house, I moved out in 1982 and got a van I could drive. 1983. Then I started to get out a little more, and the 80s were a blast. And when I finally got some confidence, I had a fun time in the 80s. It was all it was cracked up to be. If you weren't there, people. Being in your 20s in the 80s was a good time.
Yeah.
And I give women a lot of credit because obviously the wheelchair would be a deal breaker for, a lot of women. Like, no way, I'm just not going to deal with that. And I experienced that too. But to their credit, there were thankfully girls who were willing to look beyond that and just deal with it. And, you know, uh, so I'm very thankful for that. And I probably spent a little too much time in bars and nightclubs than I should have. You know, I wasted a lot of daylight, but you can't have both. You can't stay out till 2 a.m. and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning.
Well, you were a phenomenally good-looking young man, so I bet they were looking past the wheelchair. I'm just saying, with your personality, your drive, and your looks, you were kind of like the whole package. I've been watching your videos, my friend. I'm just saying, you're the whole package. So I can see them overlooking that. I can.
Right. Thankfully, you know, I know how to carry on a conversation. You know, as my buddy would put it, I had a good rap, and you know, thankfully, you know, I was, you know, decent looking and in shape. You know, I worked out like a madman in those days, and so
you might. I did too.
Yeah. And I know it's hard to believe now, but I did. but yeah, it was a blast. And then the 90s came along and ruined everything, you know. But no, it's you know, you grow up, you grow out of the nightclub life and all that, and then what do you do? I don't want to stay out till closing time anymore.
Right.
That kind of thing. So that gets old, and so I started changing to earlier bedtimes and more dealing with daytime and all that, and times were changing too. It just seems like the fun of the 80s gave way to this, I don't know, serious side of the 90s or something like that.
Well, you know, when you start looking at the clock and it's only 10 and you're like, wow, is this place closed yet? You're up late.
Right.
Late. You know, it's time to maybe hang it up a little bit.
Right. Yeah. But I still like to go out when there's music somewhere, if it's early enough.
Yes.
And then, and anywhere where there's good music, you know, the concerts, thankfully we get quite a few decent concerts in our town. You know, went to see Paul McCartney a couple of years ago, and that was huge. He sold out the Carrier Dome in one day. But thankfully I have season tickets to football, so you kind of get priority. You know, all the typical rock bands from, you know, Ringo, Stars All-Star Band. And
oh, I saw that picture you had in the video, and he was just right up front, like you were right up close.
Yeah. Well, that was a good zoom lens, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. I wasn't that close, but actually perfect seats though, because you know there was access to get in and out when you wanted, and that's at an outdoor amphitheater we have here, which is pretty nice. And but you know, when it comes to those things like arenas and all that stuff, again, that's another thing we take for granted nowadays, where you just assume, of course, it's going to be wheelchair accessible and disabled people can get in. Where even when the Carrier Dome, if you're familiar with that, it's where Syracuse University plays football and basketball. When it was built in 1980, the wheelchair access was pretty bad. I mean, you could get in, but the seating was awful. And that's when I was working at Arise, and we would fight them to add more seats. And I kind of had a Rosa Parks moment. Me and two other guys in wheelchairs and one guy on his feet. Boston College was playing Syracuse. Doug Flutie was there playing, and we sat in the end zone where the wheelchair seating was, and all we could see when the play came in the end zone was everybody's butt right in front of us when they stood up. And so we got mad, and we knew our way around the dome because we were there often negotiating with them. So we went down the elevator to the big door where the ambulance is, and our buddy reached in the booth and popped the door open for us, and we went in and told the guard that the head of the dome said we can come down there and sit on the field in the corner. And he was kind of like John Candy in Vacation. He's like, I'm going to have to check on that now.
Right,
and,
right.
and he comes over and he's like, you guys aren't allowed to be here. And we were like, well, we're not leaving until you tell us where we can go and see the game. And the police chief was right there, as a matter of fact. And we were like, go ahead. What are you going to do? They weren't going to carry us off the field in front of 50,000 people. So we were good. They even let us leave and get beer and come back and all that kind of thing. Not all at a time, though. We
all three go back with a whole bunch of beer.
Yeah.
You had
So
someone to open the door.
Pardon?
You had to leave someone to open the door.
Right. Someone to keep their foot in the door open. But that was, thankfully not long after that. I don't know if that helped that or not, but they added a whole new wheelchair section, which really made it a whole lot better, where you weren't excluded. And even since then they've improved it, and they're about to improve it again. Now with the ADA, everything is so much better.
Right. And I know that any of the new buildings have to really, and if you want to remodel, they want you to go ahead and put that in to make sure that works. And so everyone has equal access to whatever they need.
Yeah. And, it's not a perfect world.
I know.
If a mom and pop restaurant is upstairs, and it's going to take them $20,000 to make it accessible, you can't expect that to happen. But through attrition and just, as things are built newly and remodeled, pretty much most things are accessible.
Wow. Yeah. Because I know that that a lot of the older buildings where they start to change, they just need to change them. They just need to make sure if you're gonna have meetings, it has to be where it's accessible. Hey, Novice Gods, how you doing? So,
hey, Novice. Lawrence,
were you were there at the night Lawrence danced?
But I missed that part. So but it's there. Okay, so I have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, you have to go back. We've been really trying to drive everyone to that, because Novice has some moves, just like Canadian Drone have. Roger has some moves. He never tells you, but he's got moves. Right, Roger? He's gonna Hey, Roger.
Oh, that's right. Roger danced too.
Can I see those moves one more time?
No.
In Phantom 101.
Oh. And it's funny, speaking of dance moves and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I told you I grew up in what would now be called a integrated neighborhood, but back in the 70s was called the ghetto. And my dad owned a bar down there, which was basically, if you take the movies from the 70s like Shaft, and Superfly, Car Wash, Starsky and Hutch, Huggy Bear, all that stuff, and roll it all up into one ball. That was our bar. It was, and in the 70s, the brothers had some style. Literally guys with big brim hats with a peacock feather and fur coats, full-length fur coats, and all that stuff. I mean, it really was Hollywood central casting. It was so cool. And I have no photos of it whatsoever.
Oh, you didn't take anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
But again, we weren't camera people back then in our family, so.
But you are now.
Right.
You're very much a camera person now. So so we have Novice Squads in, Phantom Flight 101, Mr. Something Basics in the house, Phantom Flight. We have where did he go? Justin, where did you go? I thought I just saw you. You're in there, right? Drone Evolution NYC is in the house. We have a lot of people. Wakey's in the house. So nice to see all of y'all here. Name is Something Basic. So So now you are a complete geek.
Yeah, in a sense.
You're a complete geek. I saw. I didn't know how many drones you had in your like first flight of the Spark, but you had something before then, right?
At first, I bought a Phantom 4,
Mm-hmm. And
which
threw
is
that puppy in the house.
right, and I crashed it into the ceiling. Yeah, it took out a light bulb, and thankfully the drone survived just fine. And I sold it to a friend of mine when the original Mavic Pro came out, because that thing was just so easier for me to handle in terms of carrying it around. And the controller on the the Phantom series is so big. It's about as big as the Mavic drone folded up. So for my purposes, it was just the Mavic was the way to go. And and that's what really got me into, like, I'm gonna really do this a bit. And of course, like I said, at first you're just fascinated you can fly and all that, and try and make like a music video out of it. But and then I got the Mavic Air when that came out, and I had to get the Spark when that came out.
Yeah.
And then what else? And now I have the Mavic 2 Pro, which is, it's a nice drone. It's got a really good camera. It's not as good as the Phantom 4 2.0 camera right now, but for my purposes, it's great. And so
all your drones, you have stellar taste in drones. Let me say first of all.
well, I am
also an extremely good flyer.
I'm pretty decent. I do take advantage of those automated flight things, the orbiting and all that stuff. I'll manually orbit something sometimes, but it's a heck of a lot easier to do with the automatic stuff. And, so even all the DJI people know what I'm talking about. Your tap fly, where you just tap on the screen and it goes there. And in fact, I just did that yesterday. I did it manually too, but I was up at the Oswego River, which is a pretty good sized river that goes into Lake Ontario. And there's a rather large bridge that I was doing several flights underneath, trying to get on the Ken Herron show and the kind of thing, send my video in. and I got up close and personal with the waterfall there. That was all manual, but I got really close where I haven't seen the footage yet because my iPad is full. So I haven't even loaded the footage on there. I might go to the Apple store tomorrow and get another iPad. I've been thinking about it anyway. So I am a geek. But
I wasn't being unpleasant, believe me.
Right.
But so am I. I mean, I get have the Apple Watch, I have this, I can't get everything, but I love stuff that does. I just do. I can't help it. I love anything that does stuff. Hey, Tim.
And they're fun, like the Apple Watch. I remember being in the grocery store. I was checking out, and I use Apple Pay, and the person behind me, whispering not so quietly, geez, that thing costs $500 and whatever. And, it didn't really bother me because for my purposes, the convenience of not having to pull my wallet out and all that, just tap on the watch and ding, you're off and going. Money still comes out of your pocket, but,
But it doesn't do it the way, see, and I actually went up to this one because I was having some problems, and it does an EKG for me.
Oh, the new one.
Running and all that I'm not going to just, that irregular heartbeat thing I got going isn't going too far out north for me. So I thought, well, if I can just wear it instead of having to go somewhere and bring home something, that's a good deal for me.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, the heart rate monitor on even the one, I have the one before that where it doesn't do an EKG or ECG, whatever it is.
Right.
but where it monitors your heart rate and will give you a monthly chart and all that stuff. I mean, that's really useful stuff. And if you have some issues like that, it's not like going to the doctor and getting a full-fledged, several spot EKG, but it'll give you a heads up sometimes to go get checked out. And also, like, back in the old days, for disabled people, talk of home automation was this dream that was someday a computer will help control your house, and lots of things like that. And now it's boiled right down to your phone does it, and it's it's terrific, and all the Apple HomeKit lights and all that kind of thing. I use a lot of those. Are terrific.
Do you see? I use Alexa throughout my house, and I use it because I'm just lazy. I mean, once I get into bed, I don't want to turn off lights, do all that stuff. I don't want to do any of that stuff because I forget everything. So I'll go to bed, get up, go do something, go back to bed, get up, do something. So mine is kind of out of I don't.
Well, if you want to get addicted to her,
lazy.
I don't want to say her name because I don't want to set it off. But there's a thing on there called Song Quiz, I believe.
Yes.
And it is addicting.
Oh,
I'm about it the other day, and
so do you have that?
The Echo? Yeah. That was the first one, and then Apple came out with their speaker, which is definitely not as smart as the Amazon one, but it controls all the Apple HomeKit stuff. So all my light switches and stuff are connected, so I can just tell Siri to turn on every light in the house all at once, or to set the living room lights to 50% or whatever.
Right.
And for me, that's just game changer stuff.
It is. Yeah. And I do get it, guys. I do get it. She could record everything and that kind of stuff. You can put her on quiet so she can't hear and stuff like that. But my life is not to the point where anybody would ever care to hear me. They hear me now on this, but I'm not pushing it to think they're going to want to hear me on that. Because I'm interviewing other people. If they see me like, come on, Ranger, let's go for a walk. Okay, we're back. We'll have coffee. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to listen to 20 hours of that. So tell me about your mic you got there. Somebody thought it was a Rode mic?
No, this is Audio Technica. I think it's 8020. It's just I just wanted to get a decent mic for doing dubbing and things like that, which I hardly ever do. But it's come in handy now with these live chats, and somehow I'm able to use it without getting feedback. And I have the speakers low enough or something where I'm not getting feedback from it, and with the headphones and all that kind of thing.
Right.
I don't need that stuff. But yeah, decent sounding mic and all that, so it was just another geek toy that I had.
Navasquad says he's eating it and listening. I'll tell you some stuff that's going on. You're probably better at reading it while you do other stuff. And Phantom Play 101 says, we are here for Mike Pal's life. Oh, so that means you're not here for me. Is that what we're saying? Herman, you're going to be dancing on the next video tomorrow. Those guys are on tomorrow night.
Oh, that's right. They're on tomorrow again.
At 5.
Herman's got to run the show this time. So
yes. And if we can get enough money, I think maybe we'll get someone to dance. I don't know. I'm just planning some stuff for Herman. Just saying. So, yeah.
Those guys are cool, though. I mean, it's kind of cool how they call themselves those guys, because that's how we just talk about them anyway. But, getting their perspective on things where it's pretty much completely urban flying, and you'd have to take a long ride just to get out of the city. I mean, they have parks and everything and beaches and all that, but it's Brooklyn, it's Queens, it's the Bronx and all that stuff, and it's really a different world. If anyone hasn't been to New York City, I can see why New Yorkers think there's like them, and it's like no one else measures up, because sometimes there's that attitude because it is that wild down there, and I love visiting, but I'm glad I don't live there.
Yeah. Pen and Flight and Hubba's Clouds. Hello, my friends. That's Paul Murray. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I've been to New York. But mostly just passing through. But I've been to upstate New York. I've been to Raleigh, I think it was, and I've been to I went to a church up there on a youth getaway or something. So I've done some stuff.
Yeah,
Not a whole lot.
it's funny for people in New York City. Upstate New York means anything like between there and Albany. New York, and we're way upstate New York.
Oh, it was Rochester. I'm sorry, I was in Rochester.
Oh, okay. So you were going towards Western New York, essentially, and yeah. But and I remember being in New York City. I was driving in Manhattan about, I don't know, 17 years ago. It was 2002, I think, and I got pulled over by a New York cop for taking a wrong turn, and that was not long after 9/11. Cops were pretty jumpy, and
Right.
so, and he saw I had a Syracuse shirt on, and I just said, I'm from way upstate, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Right.
He just just said, take it easy. I was just driving around looking for a place to park, but
Right.
driving in Manhattan, I don't want to do that again. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think New York is really packed. I was flying out of, I don't think it was LaGuardia. I think I was going out of JFK. And so I drove up from Maryland and took a plane. Hey, Paul Murray. So I'm gonna ask you, because we've already gone through an hour 15, which is surprising, because it seems like you just came on. So I want to get to some questions. Who are the people that you like following? Now, I know you like to follow everyone, but who do you really like following on here?
Let's see. Well, Val's life, of course, is just tops,
I was gonna say, yay!
But your show is interesting though, because you're kind of a drone person, but you're not a drone person. And when you do your interviews, you can tell that you've at least looked somewhat into the person, instead of just chatting from the out of the blue. You've done a little research, and thankfully not too much research on me.
Yeah, but, that's in my drawer right here, the special report.
Right. And but yeah, I've watched some of your interviews, and you ask some pretty in-depth questions, as opposed to just how's it going kind of stuff. And but I like Philly Drone Life is a lot of fun.
He's tall.
And, he's that energy and the flying. The guy's a heck of a pilot when it comes to drones, to pull off what he does on a daily basis, and
all that energy he has, and to still stay with what he's doing. Because if I tried to be energetic while flying a drone, I don't know where we'd end up. I just don't know where.
Yeah. And plus, Philly seems to be an open city, in terms of flying drones. So he has a lot of freedom, where he's like right up against the battleship New Jersey over in the river. And it's like, wow, I'm looking at the guns on a battleship. It's so cool. So I enjoy him. Started out a couple years ago with the usual suspects, Casey Neistat and people like that, and the big names. But when I started, I don't know, I just discovered other people locally, and then Canadian Drone Hub has really been a good um, a way of networking with other people and finding other people like myself who aren't big YouTubers or anything, who just want to make, want to share something. And it, and then and a few people, and I know that those guys know about him too. This guy over, he's in Holland, I believe, and his channel is called Never Mind Your Own. And this guy does the nuttiest stuff with his drone. And it's like the luckiest drone pilot in the world, because he has crashed, but he should have crashed a lot more than he does. And he does these crazy things. He's always working on range tests for no reason whatsoever.
Oh.
And, so I get a kick out of him.
Stuff like that. I think that stuff is, have you ever seen The Crazy Russian?
No.
Okay, Roger. You should. Sorry. Oh, he's going to come back in. I think he's tired of not being able to hear you, so he's going to come back.
Okay. Yeah.
So he does just all these reviews, and he always likes everything, and I'm just like, how could you like everything? But he's funny. He's very funny. I don't always watch him, but I can't think it's. Oh, stop starting up, Paul. Paul, hold on. Looking forward to Wednesday and Sunday segments of Lawrence Dance Off with those guys. Paul is bad. You do know this, right? Paul is a bad boy.
Maybe we can get Don Cornelius to provide the music.
Right.
Man, that I've got to go back and watch that video of Lawrence.
Oh, he was. I'm telling you, it was something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is so funny. So let me touch upon your channel. So your channel, I mean, I was in tears watching some of your videos today. I went through a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't anything. It was just how, the Edmund Fitzgerald one, you did the Christmas one with your family way back, and then you bring everything forward. You tell a story in a way that most people don't, Mike.
Right.
So and then you did some that look like trailers to movies. I mean, absolutely, that one guy was singing, and I can't remember what he was singing, but it's what was that song? It was stuck in my head a minute ago, and I was afraid I was going to break out and sing it, and I was like, I can't do that.
Good. I've done a couple of the trailer ones where one was like a Voyage of the Pervert, I called it, and
okay, that was yes, I got that one.
And then I put one up today where it was like flying under a bridge really close to the water, and I was pretty fortunate to get through there. I'll show that full video coming up, but I just wanted to have a little fun with it.
Was it? No, I don't think it was Creeping Around the Yards, but it's a song. It's not the Moonlight. It had a song. I'll figure out which one it was, but that was so like back in the 80s music, right? The one you did, and it looked just like a trailer. And I thought, I'm expecting to have a movie start. I'm just expecting to see that. And so I did comment on it that you need to be working on movies. You need to be.
Okay. The one I just did of downtown Syracuse with the Sopranos opening music.
Okay, that
woke up this morning, and where it was all flying around, the center city and all that. And I think that's one. So I saw you commented on it. But one of my favorites is actually I did last summer, where there's this place about 30 minutes south of Syracuse, just a small one-horse town where they have this park. And when I was a little kid, our family would go there, and there was rides there, and there was this big round, about 30 or 40 foot wide wading pool for little kids. and this building, and the rides were all, you know, circa 1950 rides. They would never pass safety inspections today and that kind of thing, and everything was just so. The cars were old. I was only about 5, 6 years old, whatever I was, and I made a nice video with that and took some of our old family home movies and edited them in with the modern footage of the place, and actually got a lot of views on that, and it's like sometimes one comment can mean more than 50 views. Like when somebody says, they remember that place when they were a kid and they were brought to tears by it, it's like, wow, that really, it sounds cliched, but, that really made that whole effort worth it to do. And that was, I think I would call my first really good edit of something.
Wow.
Yeah,
this one I was talking was Downtown Syracuse, and the song you used was Woke Up This Morning.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was, if you look at it, I don't know if you watched the TV show The Sopranos or ever saw it.
No, I didn't watch them. I was just, So to me, it was all new.
Yeah. Well, I copied the opening of the show, kind of.
It was great. It was great, Mike. It really was. I loved it. Hey,
it was fun.
how you doing? So I'm looking at the water tank was gone.
Oh yeah, that one. About 2 weeks ago, I could hear rumbling in the house and felt it even a little bit, like somebody was digging a foundation nearby, because it's all shale in my area. The ground is, and so I knew something was going on. And then somebody told me there's a water tank about 2 blocks away, which is in some of my other videos, and sure enough, they tore it down because I guess it hasn't been used in a long time. It was outlived its lifespan, whatever, and so it looked like somebody dropped an egg, and the eggshells were on the floor, the way they smashed it apart. And so they're gonna build a new one over the next, say, 9 months or so. So I'm gonna try and time lapse the construction of that. That would be kind of cool to do, I think. Save the same waypoint and fly to the same point every couple of days and get the progression of it. At least I'm gonna try. We'll see how it turns out.
Good. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
And you also did Attack by UFU.
Oh, UFO. Or did I mistype it? Did I mistype
the
UFO?
Yeah, you said Attacked by UFU.
UFU.
Like UFU? That sound right?
I know, I have to check my typing. I've done it before. I uploaded a video. I'm like, darn it, I misspelled a word. It drives me crazy. Thankfully, I think I can change the title without losing the views and all that. But yeah, that was just from my driveway. We were shooting the sunset, and a friend of mine's Phantom 4 got into my shot. So I thought, what the heck, we'll have a little fun with it and act like I was accosted by aliens. Just goofing around.
It was fun.
Otherwise, it was just an ordinary time-lapse sunset that wasn't anything special. I'm hoping we get some pretty awesome sunsets up here, though. So hopefully this summer, if I can ever get to the point of live streaming on YouTube, either do that or just record it and get it up as quickly as possible, or time lapse.
Right. Let's see. You also did, Voyage of the Pervert. I couldn't believe that. I'm just like, Mike. Talk to me a little bit. You did a thing that helps you. You built something that helps you pick up your drone.
Yeah. Usually I try to use a table as much as possible to take off from. I'll even I have a good sized folding table that it's kind of hard for me to do, but I can get it into the back of my van. But if I can avoid that effort, I will So I came up with one of these, because it's so much easier to land on the ground where there's all the room in the world than it is to try and land on a table, even a decent sized table, because you go to land and one leg of the drone misses and you're going to fall off. And I can't do hand catching and all that stuff. So anyway, so yeah, I can't. It's one of those grabbers, that you reach things up in a cupboard, and but I can't squeeze the trigger because of my finger dexterity troubles. So I managed to rig up a bungee cord onto the thing where the hooks from each end of the bungee cord kind of form a perfect shape to go under the front arms of the drone and pick it up. And as long as I'm really careful not to scrape the back propellers up on the ground and all that kind of thing. I used it yesterday and it worked just like a champ, just like I intended, because there was a picnic table where I was, but I didn't want to land on it because all my stuff was there too. And so that thing is nice, and just, keep it in the van ready to go.
Then you invented something else to help you so you could fly your controller.
Oh yeah, the controller.
You have so many facets to you.
Yeah.
You have stuff. You fly. You can make movies, because a lot of your stuff are like short film.
Right. Yeah, well, the old saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
And I was always kind of a mechanical kid anyway. When I was a kid, my friend and I would take things apart to see what was inside. And you just learn how things physically work and all that, like whether it was electronics or anything. We tried to make our own backyard carnival rides, all that stuff. So,
oh my God.
So making that thing, Manfrotto makes a lot of accessories for photography. It's a big Italian company, and they have all these clamps and accessories. And I just thought it through, like, how could I rig that up where I could attach it to my chair and make it look clean, like it was a store-bought type of rig. And sure enough, just looking at the parts, thought it through and say, okay, put a tripod head on top of that and quick release plate on the iPhone, and it was good to go. So that was pretty easy to come up with, and that works. It's so easy to do and so portable and works just so well. I'm glad I came up, because I can't hold the controller and then thumb the sticks and all that stuff. It doesn't work that way for me.
Well, and your sticks are quite long.
Actually, no, the normal sticks, I did use extensions for a while, but I find that, one, they're more of a pain to try and put in the case and all that, and also I wasn't gaining any more control with longer sticks. So, but I do have a little rubber knob on the end of my sticks, which kind of gives me a little more tactile feedback from the sticks. But I still have to kind of see them to really know what I'm doing, or else I'll start drifting sideways.
So I'm going to see really quick. Roger, are you able to come back in for just a minute? Or is that no? We'll have to wait and see. I have to go check on something, so I was going to see if I can get Roger back in for a moment, because he stayed out, because that's how he rolls. But
you need like a 4-minute intermission countdown.
Yes, I need an intermission. Get over here, Roger. I'm just like, what the heck, Roger? But he may not be able to hear anybody.
I know.
That's that thing with Roger. Here he is. Let's see. We'll see. Roger, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
He may not be able to hear anybody.
I can't hear him. Darn it.
You can hear me? Can you hear me, bud? Wait a minute.
Can you hear him, Mike?
No.
Oh, no.
It's Google Chats.
Oh,
It's
Google's
insane.
sucks big time lately.
If I go out and come back in, I might be able to hear him.
Nah, I'll find
I
someone.
know.
Sorry, Roger. Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I'm not going to dance.
You was hoping you would dance, but I got a feeling that wasn't going to work. I got to do something else because I don't know what I did here. Okay, it's okay. So what I'm going to did Roger leave?
I'm here.
You're
Roger,
still there.
I
I'm here.
am going to leave Mike in charge of my chat
Uh,
because
I'm not-
guys, if you ask questions, don't let them be naughty questions. Okay, we want to. I'll still be able to hear you. I'll be right back, Mike.
okay. Well, hey, everybody in the chat there. It's up to me to kill time here for a minute. You know, this is kind of cool being on Vale's life. You know, it's sort of an honor, and you know, you kind of arrived, at least in our little world. I see Mitch here, old guy in a drone. Check him out. He's down in Florida. Talk about being able to put things together and all that. He came up with a rig for his GoPro for vlogging, which has gotten a ton of views. And Mitch was the first guy ever to say to me to come into a live stream. And you know, when I felt like I was like, and nobody wants to talk with me, and Mitch brought me in, and that was really, really cool. And of course, then I felt like you know, you get so nervous in front of the camera and all that, and then you go back and rewatch it and think, oh man. But you know, hello, Mitch. Thank you, you know, very much for doing that. And who else is we got here? You know, when this print gets smaller, it seems over time. But Paul Murray's there, Juneau County Droner. I think that's how you say it, Juneau or Juneau. And then I know those guys were in here, and and Furball Kim up there in Canada with Roger, and you know, so what else we got? And Above and Beyond Global Drones, Chris Hope. I like Chris's stuff too. Those Texas sunrises are pretty cool. So anyway, Val is back.
You did great. Abandonment. That's right, Wiki.
And now with the news, here's Val.
Sorry, Roger. I know, you know, I know some of you have been experiencing this if you're doing live streams, but a lot of people right now are having glitching problems where they can't hear people when they come in or go out or whatever that is. And so we have been having that problem on our chats. I have to take my pain meds. Okay, Owl Eyes, but I appreciate you coming in. So that was nice. Hey, Chris Hope. We have Old Man in a Drone. We have Owl Eyes was in. We have Global, Above and Beyond Global. Drones.
Thomas O'Sullivan. I think that's how you say it. You know, we kind of have a debate over his name now of how do we say his name, whether it's Tomas as in the Hispanic way of saying it, but he's in Ireland, and I think of Irish heritage, so I think it's Thomas, at least the way he tried to phonetically spell it out for me.
Moss, like sauce.
Right, that's how he said it. Yeah.
You should have heard this stuff Canadian Drone Hub was saying while you were out. Don't you start, Russ. Don't you start. I will beat you. So
those guys could hear Roger, but I couldn't.
Roger, what were you saying? Roger, don't you be hiding in the corner. Okay.
Nothing.
Are you sure?
Saying nothing.
And you know, Val, in terms of like an interesting story of a person on YouTube, old guy in a drone, Mitch, has got quite a life story. If he were ever looking for someone to hear what the kind of business life that he's had, you know, I don't want to give anything away, but he and I have talked a little bit about what he's done over the years, and
Wow.
he's has some interesting experiences. So
Yeah.
one person to keep in mind.
I see he's here. He might hide now, though. God knows.
But
So where would you like to see your channel in 5 years?
oh God, well, who knows what YouTube's even going to be in 5 years? You know, it keeps changing so much. All these rules and all this stuff, and some of them make sense, and some of them are make no sense whatsoever. But you know, wherever the technology goes, but say it were to stay the same, I would just hope it would grow a bit, and not with this, you know, sub for sub kind of thing. You know, which, you know, you do that a little bit, but hopefully grow because people want to see the videos. And whenever somebody does hook into my channel, I try to get them back. And I do try to make an honest effort at least once in a while. If they're going to watch my videos, I want to go watch their videos.
Right.
You know, at least take, you know, not everyone necessarily, but they're not, you know, going to see every one of mine. But, you know, to go check them out, say hello. And, you know, because it, you know, it isn't, it's a very narcissistic kind of platform where it's look at me, and I certainly don't want to come across like that, you know. And so I try to highlight the scenery and all that stuff, but you know, more subscribers, you know, I hit 250, which is kind of cool. A lot of that again is thanks to Roger, and also Pusa Studios, and also Philly Mike. He is giving me quite a few shout outs on people's channels. So he got some numbers for me, but it's not about numbers. I get a kick when somebody in Germany or Ireland or Australia says, I like that. That to me is a real kick, as opposed to like, oh, look at my numbers, you know, or my, you know, analytics and all that stuff. I'm not there yet, you know. So, and, you know, who knows? You know, who knows what drones will be in 5 years? And who knows where I'll be in 5 years? You know, I try not to look that far ahead. Life can change on a dime.
Because your videos can get some great views.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, it's a beautiful area of the state that I'm in. You know, you know, the winters are brutal, and you know, I know that all the Canadian guys they get it worse than we do, but we get the lake effect snow, and all the Great Lakes people can relate to that. You know, where you get dumped on pretty heavily. Thankfully, Syracuse doesn't get it as bad as just about 40 miles north of us. It all depends on the wind with lake effect. And but you know, I don't do a whole lot of winter flying because it's hard for me to take the cold. But you know, once spring hits, like now, things are turning green, and you know, it's just so gorgeous. And right up till fall. So I've got things kind of planned out. A whole bunch of spots that I have scoped out, both near and far. Some I just only need to drive 2 miles away, because we have gorgeous churches all over town, and it's an old city, so there's beautiful architecture and all that kind of thing. And then you know, we have Lake Ontario just right to the north of us, and the Adirondack Mountains. I mean, you know, up there, I love. A lot of my childhood was spent up there on family trips too, and you know, in fact, I went camping up there in the kind of central Adirondacks 2 years ago, in 2016, and slept in a lean-to uh, an oversized lean-to that was purposely made to be wheelchair accessible, and literally it's like a three-sided cabin, and
Oh.
it gets cold at night, even in the summertime in the mountains. But listening to the loons at nighttime and all that stuff, absolutely gorgeous, And
Tony about Northwest wants to know if you met up with Mark yet.
no, I haven't. Mark from Centroid. No, we've talked about that, and I say hello to him on his channel and all that. He probably lives 6-7 miles away. It's just a matter of whether that happens. You got to make it happen. But flying is a funny thing. It is a lot of fun. I've discovered to fly with friends, but it's also kind of a solitary thing as well, where you go off on your own and do your own thing. Where you don't have to do whatever someone else wants to do. But I'd love to meet them and anyone else locally. And also, I know that Lawrence talked about those guys maybe making a road trip up here. Obviously, you don't count on these things, but it would be so cool to have those guys, come up here and let them say where they want to go. But at least I would know, and Mark would know, and whoever, where to go, where you can go, and all that. And it'd be kind of culture shock for them.
I would love to fly with those guys. I'd like to fly with you if I ever get in New York. We're just going to have to figure it out. How much fun that would be.
Yeah, it is. I never thought it would be, but the last 3 weeks I've got to fly with a friend who got me hooked on it. And he, it is kind of cool when, checking with each other, what's your altitude, all that stuff, so you don't crash into each other. Then, of course, he goes right into your shot, and but that's all fun too, But yeah, I'd like to meet Mark at some point. I know he does a lot of FPV stuff, and that's not my thing. But photography, camera droning is my thing, and but he's done some pretty good stuff in that department too.
Yeah, you're really good at it, Mike. You're really good at it. Let's see. And actually, I didn't watch your whole live stream, but your live stream was good also. You have really good presence. Oh, we'll be up there this summer, Mike.
Okay.
Novice Park.
Oh, Lawrence, yeah. That's cool. I want to, give me a heads up, because I want to set that aside and make sure I'm good. Because, I think I like those guys. I just get into that show, and and they just seem like pretty interesting people, and plus you can goof off with them. And,
they're so much fun. So, hold on. Oh, actually, I think I'm playing the Merry Widow. You have a
Oh yeah, my song and dance days. Yeah, that was 1988 or 87, where it was it was a fundraiser for the agency I worked for, the nonprofit, and we did a show. We did it originally at the Hotel Syracuse, which has very grand, old-fashioned ballrooms and stuff like that. And they got 2 ballet dancers who were classically trained ballet dancers, myself, another guy who uses a wheelchair, and choreographed this, kind of waltz together. And it was that we were rusty in that video, but the original one is somewhere in my channel. And I thought it was pretty cool, because sometimes people try to force the wheelchair stuff into a show, and it doesn't really work. But I thought that really worked, and it was a lot of fun. Plus, part of that was we had to kiss the girl twice each time, We did it, and rehearsals all summer were a lot of fun. The other guy was married; he couldn't get away with it, but my dancer and I had fun.
My
So.
dog found a way to get in here.
Oh yeah. I hope your dog doesn't get hair all over your new apron.
He's going to. I went on. I was trying to do something with that video. It wouldn't let me. Then it went off completely. I was having a heck of a time with that. Go away, Ranger. He's not going to. This is my exciting life. I just told you. See? Go on, Ranger. Go. See.
Now, where are you located, Val? What state are you in?
I'm in Idaho.
Okay, Idaho. Okay, I didn't. For some reason, I thought you were in the Great Lakes. Yeah. So, and
who's in the Great Lakes? Is that Paul? Paul's by Lake Huron.
Oh yeah, he's up there. He's by the big boys. Okay. Lake Ontario is relatively small.
There's that little funny face. It's like, Mom, can I please be with you? Go be somewhere. No. This is how it listens. Stay right here. Good dog. There we go. Hey, drone shots. So I know you and Philly have been doing some kind of collabs in a way, yeah?
A little bit. I've tried to help him. He's in Philadelphia, but if you know his story, he doesn't know Philadelphia almost like an outsider, because he was so isolated because of his weight in past years and other issues. And so he's discovering Philadelphia as much as we might be, and it's like, you've got the museum where the Rocky statue is, and it's, the river on each side of the city and all that. There's got to be, it's a big tourist town, and Freedom Hall and all the historic stuff there. And so I'm just trying to encourage them, like, take that pocket Osmo and hook it up to that rig with the, tripod and get out there, interview tourists. I think he'd be great at that, to engage people, just strangers, into his show.
I said that just the other day when he got upset about him forgetting his drone, and then the next day being in the no-fly zone. And I said, you're more than just that drone.
Right.
You have a whole personality that you just have to hit the streets, talk to people, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I'd watch it. I'll watch it.
His flights are great too, because that's also his personality. But you can fly around the skyscrapers. They look, it's the same skyscraper, but he gets different angles. But it is not the skyscrapers that keeps us watching. It's his excitement and all that. Mm-hmm. And if he takes that on street level with the Osmo, especially that one he did where he was on, the street was different than he remembered, and he's apologizing about the blue shops there. That's that I cracked up at that one. I'm like, I want to see more of South Street, and but so I think if he can get up to engaging people, find tourists. Tourists are easy to spot, and just talk with them. If they don't want to talk, whatever. But I think it would be so cool. And Mike is not. He doesn't fall short for words. He knows how to keep talking. So
he does. He has a natural talent.
Yeah.
It's a talent for it, and he needs to use that. Yeah, because I was saying the same thing. Because I want to.
Yeah.
Really.
I don't mean that in a bad way. Like rambling on or something, but he just finds a way of making it exciting, and and it's all kind of by the seat of his pants, and you don't know what's going to happen, and that's part of the fun of it too.
Yeah, I just see him walking the streets, talking with people, and not in a scary way, because I don't think he would do that, but he's just so much fun. If I met someone like him and he was just talking to me, I'd talk to him. Well, I would talk to someone who is like Billy, but some other people might run. What do you
Right.
want in your next drone? So you got a question. What do you want in your next drone?
For you, for me,
Yes, it's from Droning About Northwest.
right now I am perfectly content with the Mavic 2 Pro. That thing to me is just a bomb. It's it flies great. I got the smart controller, Russ, and that thing for me is everything it's cracked up to be. No more sun hood and all that stuff to be able to see the screen. And but the Mavic 2 Pro, it's new because I got it last year, but then winter came, so it's you get a 25 minutes of flying time basically, and all the range you could ever want, and a really, really good camera. I'm sure DJI will come up with something else to take more money out of my pocket at some point. But right now, that Mavic 2 is, I don't have the zoom. I really don't need the zoom. And it's one more thing they have to use your fingers for. So I avoid that. But the larger sensor, granted, it's not fully utilized, but it gives you so much more, it gives you so much more color and detail and all that. And I, I'm just a beginner at this stuff, and I feel like this year I'm kind of hitting stride a little bit. I don't really know, because we all talk about what DJI is going to do, and somebody did a video about this today about, it was Dobo, original Dobo, about everyone predicting what the next drone's going to be, and it's like, we don't know, DJI does whatever they want to do, and what's going to happen to the Phantom and all that stuff, who knows? I'm not going to make any predictions and stuff, but I'm happy with what I got right now. I mean, I'm just perfectly content. And the thing goes all day long, distance wise. Even the signal is so solid, and it flies so well. I don't know what more to ask for. Maybe more autonomous stuff, but that can be software updates.
Yes, I know you have a few drones, right?
Right.
Sometimes you just take out a different drone.
I don't have a Spark anymore. I sold that, but the Spark's a great drone, but it's just like, how many drones can you have at one time, unless you're professional and whatever. But the Mavic Air and I have two of the original Mavics, because I'm insane. I buy two of everything. I feel like after growing up in a house with 5 boys, I feel like someone's going to take everything away from me, And so I've got 2 original Mavics that are in really good shape, and extra batteries and props and in a case and all that stuff, that I'm going to just sell them, because otherwise the batteries will just sit there disintegrating. And I'm going to do something with those.
We were going to talk about that.
Right. Yeah, I know that you had an interest in that, and I would definitely be glad to talk with you about that, because we'll get it. We come arrange something, and and if I would, if obviously if you weren't happy, money back guarantee, for you.
So sweet.
And,
but I'd be happy. I know I would. It's not hard for me to be happy. So, what is the difference, do you feel? What made the biggest difference between your regular Mavic and then your Mavic Pro?
Let's see. Obviously, it's quieter. The pitch of the propellers, although they came out with the quiet propellers for the original Mavic. A couple more minutes of flight time. The biggest difference, and the Achilles heel of that original Mavic for a first design, first iteration, that thing was designed so well. I mean, what a terrific drone right out of the gate, except for the gimbal. You know, it's the kind of the Achilles heel, and it's so delicate and all that you really need to be cautious with that. And you know, you don't want to crash that thing. Your gimbal's gone. You know, but the bird flew well. So the gimbal, they really beefed up the gimbal on the Mavic 2, and obviously the 1-inch sensor on the thing from a photography standpoint is better. You know, but still, you can you can shoot 4K video with the original Mavic or 2.7. I shoot 2.7. I don't need 4K. I'm not Steven Spielberg, and you know, it's on YouTube. People aren't watching it in the cinema. And the most
movies, you're going to have to go up.
Right. If I ever feel like I'm going to get something, like if I ever get a chance to shoot Niagara Falls or something like that, I'll bump it up to 4K and all that. But also, like I was at a waterfalls yesterday, and I shot at 60 frames per second, and I should have bumped it down to regular 1080 so I could have done 100 frames a second and get some really good slow motion of the water and see if any fish, because we have salmon that run the rivers here too.
Yeah.
And that would be pretty cool to get. But I'll be going to that location again and shooting in all different modes. But yeah, right now, Russ, I know he I think he has the Mavic Air. Russ does.
You got the Mavic Air?
Yeah, and that's a great drone. You know, it's small and all that, but still shoots that 4K video. I know he did a wedding the other day at a vineyard, I believe, and he had, you know, he didn't show the couple, but he showed the place in his video, and that's a great little drone. And then, you know, all the talk is they're going to come out with a new one and all that. Who knows? But that, as it is terrific, and that's my way of looking at it. Is I'm not waiting for DJI's next drone. I'm a fanboy, that's for sure. I love DJI. It's kind of like Apple. I'm sticking with what I've got.
When you find something that works and you understand it can all kind of work together, it's easier to stay with what works than to try to go off into some kind of different direction where it might not work. Mike, is there anything you want to talk about that I've missed?
No, I don't think so. Just you know, I just, you know, I want to, you know, I want to thank Roger for what he's done to get me some numbers and to welcome me into his chat from time to time. Mitch, who really was the first one to do that, you know, and even Spike down in Australia, you know, iSpike. He just out of the blue, I was watching him because talk about somebody interesting to watch. Spike is a wild man. And I'm watching him, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's like, check out Mike Roche's channel and go all the way back to the first video. Good for you, Mike. Good on you, as he says. And so I really appreciated Spike, and you know, people who just they just don't seem to be in it for themselves, kind of thing. We all kind of are, but it's nice to, you know, be also for other people. So yeah, those guys and those guys down there too for officially giving us a blue wrench and being welcoming down there too. And I honestly hope they come up here. And you for, you know, letting me on your show. It is pretty cool.
Oh, this was so much fun. You know, I've been wanting to get you on, and I was trying to think, because I know you've been a lot of places, and I thought, well, let's just, you know, wait till everything calms down, then we'd bring you on here and talk to you, because I want to talk to you about stuff that's that I wasn't sure how comfortable you'd be with, but you're comfortable with everything.
Yeah. Nothing's out of bounds. I mean, the disability or that kind of thing, or like you say, dating and all that, women and disability.
Yeah, I
Or,
saw women.
huh?
I saw
Some,
women in that video. I don't
yeah.
know.
And, it wasn't that great in the 80s, Val, but it was pretty close.
It
You
was
know,
pretty close.
and but and even being a white guy growing up in the hood was something that I like people to know about. And when it comes to race relations and all that, and I know you get in touch with the ground, but I've had the most honest conversations about that kind of things with guys from the hood, who, when we get chit-chatting with each other, and they find out you grew up where, and I just, I don't know, it's just something that always kind of struck me, like people who never been there. um uh a black guy who grew up in my neighborhood knows what my life was like better than a white person who grew up in the suburbs, kind
Right.
of thing,
Right. Right.
I hope I'm not, bothering anybody by saying that stuff. It's just
No.
part of my life, and our bar was a pretty wild place back in the day, and so the landlord tried to burn the place down for money.
Oh.
That's how we got out of the business,
He was done.
right?
He was done.
He went to prison. you
Yeah.
know,
I
so.
think I think that our past make us who we are.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember those things. I wouldn't change my life. And there's been some things that I think people would say, well, I would change that, but why? Why? It's all learning. We're here, we're students, we're all learning.
Right.
So
Right. All that painful stuff in life that everyone goes through in
Yeah.
some way or another. You learn, and it makes you who you are. You kind of wish you could get rid of it because you'd rather not deal with it. But then who would you be? You wouldn't know, you wouldn't have that appreciation or those lessons. So, I don't want to say, oh, I mean, obviously I wish I never broke my neck, kind of thing. But I would also have never experienced a whole lot of things in life if I hadn't. Now, with that being said, okay, I'm ready to get up and walk.
Yes. Yes.
So, but that's not in the cards, and so I'm just making the best of it and riding it out as long as I can. I'm having a ball with Jones.
I think that being able to fly is one of the best things in the world. I used to dream all the time when I was little that I was actually flying. I'd get up and go, I'm going to start flying. I'm just lucky I didn't jump off the building and try to fly, because I just thought I was the smartest one out there.
Right.
Well, Mike, I just so appreciate it. We're past our time, but so appreciate you coming on and doing this with me and letting me look into your life a little bit. You are so interesting and so talented. It was a pleasure to really get to know you.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to try to do better. They're not all gems, but I'll that's keep trying. You never get the perfect photo, but you keep trying, and so, but thank you for having me on, and thanks everybody who watches a video once in a while, and just says hello, and the drone community, we've said this before, it really is a tremendously friendly group of people, and there's nobody who doesn't encourage other people, as far as I could tell. Everyone's willing to give you a hand and tell you how, and not keep a secret to themselves. So, such nice people from all over the world, really, mostly the U.S. and Canada, but we got these Europeans and Aussies and even a few other continents. So
it is
it's terrific.
fun. Guys, I want to also remind you that those guys are on tomorrow at 5, and you're not going to want to miss them, because I believe that Phantom Flight 101 is talking about what dance he's going to be doing. So you don't want to miss that, because that's going to be important. Anyway, guys, we love you. Thank you so much for coming on. And
Say
stay
bye to Mike for me.
Mike.
Say bye to Mike.
Take
for
care,
me.
everybody. Thanks. And I'll check you out. I'll see you online, or however I want to say it. And thank you again, Val, for inviting me on your show.
It's been
Bye,
so much
Mike.
fun. Does everyone
Bye.
stay where you are? And I'm going to
You
say,
can't hear me.
we're saying bye. Roger. Okay.
All right, bye, Roger.